Um, we'll go ahead and get everyone checked in. Looks like we have Brian Henning. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here. Brian Henning with the Ackerman Group. I also have Kristen Nuremberg. She is our property manager here at Matamore. She's here if you guys have any kind of questions about specific crime instances. So
Sure, thanks. You said you're with Ackerman?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
All right. And could you spell the name of the woman that's with you?
Yeah, it's Kristen. I'll let her go through the spelling.
Nerenberg.
Nerenberg.
Correct.
And Kristen with a K. Kristen.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Welcome. Looks like we have zoning plan examiner Trey Sheldon joining us. Welcome, Trey.
Thank you, David. Good morning again.
Hey, Trey, I noticed this in the last hearing. Your your mic is a little the volume is a little low.
No, okay, is that better? I'll put that closer to mine.
A little bit. Yeah, I was having a little bit of trouble hearing you. It's just
I'll speak up.
yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, and it could just be on my end, but want to make sure it's clear for the record. All right. I need to read through our hearing script. This will basically just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll jump right into it. So this is the January 25th, 2023 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. The cases before us today are ZH20220184, 0185, and 0186. That is at 5801 Madison, 4930 Whetsel, and 5912 Madison. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the public, they would have an opportunity to speak after the applicant had presented its case. And for our purposes here today, Mr. Henning, I'll be treating you and Ms. Nerenberg as the applicants in this matter. I will give our zoning plans examiner, Trey Sheldon, an opportunity to provide any testimony in addition to a staff report. And then in the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut that testimony. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. I may also refuse to consider hearsay testimony, which is generally evidence you want to introduce that consists of statements made by someone who is not present at this hearing, although that is discretionary. Sometimes I will allow that based on the context. All right. If there's any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those on the fly. But to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully continuing the hearing, I may continue the hearing or postpone it at my discretion. Okay. Last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. So if I can have Ms. Nerenberg just come into the screen for just a minute. The zoning code requires anyone that testifies at these hearings to be sworn in. So I need actually Mr. Henning, both you and Ms. Nerenberg.
Yeah, you can do that.
Momentary portion. Need you to raise your right hand and answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. All right. So, Mr. Henning, are you going to be taking the lead on this?
Yes, I will. Is it all right if I share my screen?
Absolutely. The floor is yours.
Wonderful. All righty. So yeah, here what we have in front of us is what we're proposing for the fence. It's going to be a 6-foot aluminum picket black metal fence. How we kind of came about here, I kind of explained in section 6 of my application. We've had a number of instances of kind of car thefts and break-ins and such over the last couple of years, and unfortunately, we've actually had 5 more instances since submitting this application. So I can share an updated crime log if you think that's appropriate. Originally, we were proposing a 6-foot wood solid fence. We presented this zoning variance to the Madisonville Community Council in September, I believe, Unfortunately, they did not have a quorum, so couldn't provide kind of a vote for or against this variance. But the major kind of feedback we got was the opaqueness of the fence. They wanted to have some kind of see-through or ability to see through the fence, which is, understandable. So in consulting with zoning after that kind of presentation, we came up with this updated spec. So Dub Works, located just a few blocks down the road at 6323 Madison Road, recently, I believe it was early last year, received a variance for a 6-foot fence of the same kind. So we felt pretty comfortable, and they received support from the Madisonville Community Council. So we felt pretty comfortable going forward with this fence spec. And so that's kind of why we changed it in the last couple of months.
Yeah, Mr. Henry, if I could dig down just a little bit. Is the Madisonville Community Council aware of this particular fence proposal?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And they couldn't take an official vote, but concerns with that, just that there was some opacity.
Just comments we gathered during the presentation was they wish they could kind of see through the fence.
Gotcha. So more transparency.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we kind of switched to this specification.
Have they actually seen this one since you switched?
I've notified the community council president, but the general body has not seen this. No.
Got it. Okay. And did you hear anything from the community council president? Is that still photos? Is that right?
No, it is Kerry Devery.
Okay.
He started January of last year.
Gotcha. And any feedback on this particular fence?
No feedback on this. Once again, they supported a variance for this spec kind of early last year, so we felt comfortable kind of moving forward. And yeah, unfortunately, with all the kind of crimes that have been kind of going on down here, our higher ups are just wanting to push this forward as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Yep. Awesome. I'll just go to the plans now for each of the properties. So this is our Madisonville Phase 1 plan. It's located at 5801 Madison Road. So we have Madison running along the north, and then Whetsel off to the right here. So our plan is to install the fence kind of behind the landscaping, as you can see, just to, kind of help soften the view for the public. Originally, we went with kind of a parking lot screening that was purely landscaping. Unfortunately, we are now here looking to install a fence due to the instances I mentioned. But we still kind of want to preserve that nice green visual field for the public. So we do plan on installing it on the inside of the landscaping. Essentially,
sorry to cut you off. You may be going.
Oh, you're fine. No worries.
Could you tell me more about the existing landscaping? And
yeah,
I mean, how much of this fence is it going to sort of screen? How tall is it?
David, I normally wouldn't interrupt, but I actually did like street view photos in my staff report. You can see them, like if you were to go to that part of the staff report pertaining to this particular property, you'll scroll, if you scroll down to figure 3, you'll see that they've installed was an agreement from earlier hearings that they would more extensive than just a grass perimeter. They were going to put in a boxwood hedge, that would grow to 3 or 4 feet in height as a boxwood hedge there, and trees, which are also interspersed at least on the other properties with the street trees to make it kind of a double row of trees. So sorry to interrupt, but I thought that would be helpful to you.
No, that's great. This is the landscape plan, so we can kind of get an idea. So these circles are all the trees that we've installed. Those are maybe 8 to 10 feet in height. And then these hedges are shown as well. Those currently, I think, are 2.5 feet maybe in height, but we expect them to continue growing kind of in the future.
Yeah, I mean, how tall do those get?
I think 3 to 4 feet is kind of once they're mature. These were installed 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. So they're still growing.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So once again, kind of the idea is to just create one entrance in and out of the parking lot. Once again, just to limit the ability for crimes to take place for the safety of our tenants and kind of the broader community. So up here in the top left of the parking lot, we have our parking gate. And sorry if this gets confusing. So we're proposing a 6-foot fence all the way around the parking lot. The red kind of denotes where zoning only allows 3 foot, and then the blue denotes where a 6-foot fence is allowed. And my understanding is essentially if we're in a commercial zone and if we're abutting a residential zone, that 6-foot fence is allowed. But if we're abutting another commercial zone, only a 3-foot fence is allowed. So that's kind of why the 3-foot fence is only allowed up by Madison, essentially. But it would be we're asking for a 6-foot fence all the way around the parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, the fence will go from the parking gate down around the corner along Prentice and then terminate into the dumpster corral, and then it'll pick up along the property line with our neighboring building and terminate into an existing fence here that the property owner owns. And that picture of that fence was included on my section 6 of the application listed under 4905 Whetsel Avenue. That's a kind of 8-foot tall chain link fence. Any kind of questions on the phase 1 plan?
I don't think so. Not right now.
Okay, awesome. So Madisonville phase 2, this is on the northeast corner of Madison and Whetsel. So we have Madison on the south, kind of Whetsel off to the west. Similar idea here, where we're trying to create one entrance and exit from the parking lot. It gets a little more complicated due to a number of factors. We have a sidewalk here, so we'll have to install a pedestrian gate, and then we also have kind of an emergency exit for the fire truck that we had to install to allow them to get out in case they ever have to get back into this property. So we'll be installing a kind of lockable swing gate in case that ever has to be utilized. And then once again, it's kind of just going around the parking lot with the landscaping on the outside of the fence and terminating into the dumpster corral. Then our parking gate is up here. Any kind of questions on the phase 2 plan?
No, I don't think so.
All right, awesome. And then
So,
phase,
well, actually,
Yeah.
could you go back to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Sierra Street. I'm just trying to make sure I'm properly here before through this. So this is this the Whetsel address?
no, this would be 5912 Madison.
Got it. Okay, across.
Sorry, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
I'll say the addresses.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Obviously, you don't know where Madisonville phase 2 is.
Also, David, to that point, I also have included a street view image in my staff report for this phase 2 that he's speaking to. So you can see it's just was done later, and so the plantings won't be quite as mature because it was done after the fact. And then for phase 3, it's still going on.
Trey, I'm sorry. I'm still. I think it might. I'll turn my volume up, but you could speak a little bit louder. I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay, just that also for this staff report, since we're doing these kind of all three at the same time, my other staff report for phase 2 here also shows you a Google Street View image. It's just that the plantings aren't quite as mature because this was phase 2 rather than phase 1, and by the time we get to phase 3, I couldn't have a Google Street View image yet because they were in the midst of still completing all the project. They just put in a pool and other things on there. And so that's still just now being finished up. So there is no, image of that just yet, but it will be, they have the landscape plan and they're fulfilling it in phase 3, just like they are in phase one and phase two, where I have a
Gotcha.
street view.
So yeah, I remember doing a few approvals on this. I think I came in right as this was being constructed. So
You
are you
did for phase
suggesting
three.
that phase one is the 5801 Madison development, and then phase
Yes.
two is this one, and phase three is Whetsel?
Yes, correct.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Trey.
Awesome. Sweet. Yeah, if no other questions on phase two, we'll move to phase three. Thankfully, it gets less complicated here. So this is the 4930 Whetsel Avenue, Madisonville, phase three. Once again, kind of proposing the same thing of a fence around the parking lot with the landscaping on the outside, just to create one entrance and exit into this parking lot. So the one thing that's kind of strange here is we're carrying the fence back somewhat into the parking lot. So the Madisonville Library is a tenant in this space. And so these 8 parking spaces have been designated for the library during library hours. So we wanted to still kind of send the signal that that these are kind of public spaces. So that's kind of why we pulled the fence down here. And then it terminates into the parking gate, which is located where my cursor is, if you can kind of see that. So yeah, that's about it. I don't know if you guys have any questions on phase three.
Not on the design or anything you've discussed so far.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I guess I'll just kind of go over the crime log real quick, just as an update, since my application stopped on the 12/13. So on the 15th of December, we had multiple cars broken into. On the 18th, we had another couple cars broken into. On December 31st, attempted car theft. January 1st, a car theft, and then January 15th, a breaking and entering. So definitely kind of the last couple months have really seen a skyrocket in the number of kind of crimes in the area. Unfortunately, it's definitely a hot topic for our tenants. It's a hot topic for our leadership team, and we're just really trying to get this installed as quickly as possible. So yeah, that's kind of all I've got. I don't know if you guys have kind of any other questions or concerns.
Yeah, so 6 new instances since December 13th, and then
5.
okay, and in leading up to the application, you referenced a number of others, like 7 or 8.
Yeah, and we added a few more here since then, so I can send this document to you if you would like.
Yeah, the assault and the ag robberies, those are happening in the parking lot.
Yes, so those both happened in the parking lot of phase 2. The robbery was just, I believe, a robbery at gunpoint, just kind of a mugging. The assault was, I guess, some kids were kind of horsing around and got into an altercation with a tenant in the parking lot and punched the tenant. So thankfully no one was seriously injured, but it is kind of concerning.
And have any motor vehicles actually been stolen and removed off the property?
Yes, I believe any of them marked car theft have been. So we got 4, 5. Is that correct? Okay. So we're experiencing the Kia boys. I don't know if you've heard of this trend. It's I guess it was a TikTok handle that taught people how to steal Kias and Hyundais. And I guess, it's kind of a nationwide phenomenon that we're seeing. And I don't know if it was one group of individuals or multiple groups have kind of picked that up here, unfortunately. So they've been targeting, specifically Kias and Hyundais.
Gotcha. Okay. What other security measures have you taken, or have you attempted any other security measures for safety of the residents or the vehicles?
Yeah, so we have kind of cameras installed throughout the property, and we've been kind of providing any video evidence that's collected to the police. We have kind of lights that throughout the parking lot that come on at nighttime. We've hired a private security company. I believe they also work with the Jameson down the road.
And maybe the red.
And maybe the red. So they come around a few times at night. We're looking at installing kind of upgraded cameras at these one entrances to the parking lot once the fence is installed. Kind of the problem I think we're having is the field in which we have to cover is so wide that to really get a good facial shot is unfortunately, a little difficult. So we'll be, installing kind of, I guess, that next level of camera at this one entrance in the hopes that if anything occurs in the future, we can get kind of a better picture of who's coming and going.
Okay, and what have the police been able to solve or make any arrests on these?
I believe the police have made one arrest recently. I believe there's an instance where one got arrested and another got away.
I think so. Yeah, I think there was one arrested. I'm not sure if it was related to all of these or not, but I do know there was one person arrested.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have right now. Anything else you want to provide before I give Trey an opportunity to weigh in here?
Not at this time.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Great.
Hey, David. Just the only comment I would make is that when these projects were initially being designed, there was a lot of work with the Community and Economic Development Corporation and the Community Economic Development Department, and also with MCURC, the Madisonville Community Urban Redevelopment Corporation, and with the council at the time, and it had to strike a balance between what was going back to the original phase 1 and phase 2, and even the one that you covered in phase 3. There was relief required because the form-based code kind of envisions smaller individual buildings, not these larger buildings, but that would have been absolutely cost prohibitive for Ackerman. They wouldn't have done the project, basically, from what my understanding. This is going back years of discussions with Brian and his colleagues and his boss, and had they had to do separate sewer lines, separate water lines, separate everything, utilities for each separate building, it would have gotten to a point of just cost prohibitive. So these are kind of unusually large buildings in these 3 phases, and consequently unusually large parking lots for what form-based code would normally anticipate. But that is what has happened as far as the development, and as Brian mentioned, where it's adjacent to the T3 and T4 transects, they would have the right to put up fence. In fact, the code presumes that you would screen the area, but in lieu of putting that fence, which was not favored at all by the community council or other folks who were involved in the concept plans, it was determined that it would be much more acceptable to the community to have what was done, which is there's going to be a nice hedge and a nice evergreen hedge, and they did their landscape plan in concert with the street trees for DOTE, so that they were staggered, if that makes sense. If you were to look at my staff report for the phase 2, you'll see how the street trees line up every other one with the trees that are inside, on the Ackerman property. And so as that matures, it'll really, provide a nice screen. And they just simply didn't want a solid wood wall. It would have been a patchwork too, because some of the sections are adjacent. If it makes sense, the drawings that Brian's showing you, some of the property line is adjacent to other T5, and it wouldn't have allowed that. So it would have been some kind of motley patchwork, and it's not what the community wanted. So this seemed to make the most sense here. It's not what they even developer even wanted to do. They wanted to provide more lush landscaping than just a 3-foot grass strip around the parking lot. So This wasn't, I don't think, what their intention was, or they would have come out with it to begin with, but this is reactive to the purported difficulties they've had with crime. And
I can't, Trey, if you could
okay. Anyhow,
just talk loud.
okay. Anyhow, this is just a response. It's not part of the original plan to do this, but it dovetails well with the landscaping because they're putting it all to the back. As Brian discussed, they put in all this, they would put all this fence behind the hedge. And that also allow the hedge to continue to grow. It won't be shaded or anything. So it's you know, it seems to be a workable scenario for, you know, maintaining all that landscaping still on the public side of the fence. So it'll be screened to the extent that it will be. The hedge will grow into a 4-foot high boxwood hedge and cover the bottom 4 feet of the fence, and then you'd be able to see through the top 2 feet. I hope that addresses how this kind of unfolded over time.
Thanks, Trey. We can troubleshoot the mic issues. But I got that. Okay, just to confirm, all the landscaping in phase 1, 2, and 3, those are all identical. Is that right? Or more or less the same sort of plantings with the trees?
Yeah. There's some variation between, but in terms of the hedge and the street trees, no, it's the same.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Mr. Henning or Ms. Nirenberg, in closing or otherwise before we adjourn here today?
I guess, yeah, the only point I would add, and I've stated this in section 6, is there's a number of kind of 6-foot to 8-foot fences throughout the Madisonville business district. So we don't think that this will kind of stick out as like a sore thumb. Like I said, on our phase 1 building, we're right next to a 8-foot chain link fence. So once again, it seems like other people in the area are having similar issues and have addressed that through a fence.
Well, whatever was submitted by.
So we don't think it's, I guess, inappropriate. So that's the only thing I'd add. And thank you guys for taking the time to review this with us.
One final note, Brian, because of the vehicular gates and the man gates with all the locks and whatnot, you will need to pull building permits for these. You can't do it as a zoning certificate of compliance.
Okay.
The lock thing and that needs to be reviewed by the building plan examiner.
Okay. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for the heads up. I was unaware of that.
Yep. It's just in a setting like this is not, you know, somebody's backyard fence. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? A normal
Yeah,
residential
no,
single
that
family.
makes sense. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. We'll leave it at that. I've approved some of these fences in Madisonville for similar reasons. So, you know, I'm aware of the fencing. Frankly, I think it's a shame because I hate the idea of fencing going up all over a neighborhood that's, you know, being revitalized. And I know that when these projects were first envisioned, that, you know, developers did not envision this, did not want this to happen. So I just think in general, it's a shame that it's got to a place public safety wise where it's a necessity. But I think that it is. And I think that based on the testimony that I've heard here today, that the application does satisfy the criteria to grant the variances. So I will approve them. I need to formalize that approval in the written decision. Mr. Henning, I think you're familiar with the process, but as soon as I finish this, as soon as I finish the decision, I'll put it into a PDF and I'll email it to you. So you'll have it really just moments after it's completed. It typically takes about a week to 2 weeks for me to get those. As soon as you have them, as soon as you have that PDF, you can work with Trey on the permitting and get this started. Hopefully, knowing that it's going to be approved, you guys can, if you need to make any purchase orders or things like that, you can get that going. But,
thank you.
Yeah, it will be approved, and I don't know. Hope that helps with the safety issues, and that in general, this public safety improves in Madisonville.
Yeah, no, that's our hope as well. So definitely not where we wanted to be, but definitely kind of a step we felt we really had to take for our tenants. So I appreciate you guys kind of taking the time and being understanding.
Sure. Okay, well, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out.
Awesome.
And yeah, I think that's it. Have a good day. Good luck with the project. And
Thanks.
we are adjourned.
All righty. Have a good day, guys.